So CNN reported that ChatGPT beat 10 of the UK's top investment funds, and all it used was a few simple prompts to do that. Sounds really impressive and simple, but could this be real? So this set my mind racing with a lot of questions. First, what stocks did it pick? Was this a fluke? Over what period? Can I replicate this? That's entirely what this channel is about. It's about finding out if ChatGPT and other AI tools can help investors like you or I beat the market. So I'm gonna build an AI powered portfolio from scratch, right here on this channel, just using smart AI assisted prompts that we can follow step by step. But before we do that, let's see how ChatGPT actually beat the market in this experiment conducted by the writers of this article for CNN. So let's see what the article says. So between March 6th and April 28th, the portfolio picked contained 38 stocks and they gained 4.9%, while the 10 leading investment funds lost money. They lost 0.8%. In the same 8-week period, the S&P was up 3%, meaning the stocks picked by ChatGPT beat both the fund managers as well as the S&P 500 in the period that was selected. But here's where it gets murky. As we look at the article, we don't see all of the stocks that were picked. The prompts used were pretty vague. Basically, they just asked ChatGPT pick some stocks with low debt and a track record of growth. Well, that could be a lot of things. And lastly, the time frame was only 8 weeks. So what if it was just a fluke? So all of this just raised more questions than answers. But there were a few answers that we got within the article. Even though we don't know the full list of 38 stocks that were picked, we're given 3 specific stocks that were picked during that period of time. The stocks were Microsoft, Netflix, and Walmart. Well, there's nothing exciting about those picks. Those picks are already part of the S&P 500, and they seem like relatively safe picks. So what were the other 33 stocks picked? We're not given that information, and that's why we set out to try and build our own portfolio of picks using a smart group of prompts. So let's try and re-engineer what the prompts might have been that they used. We can ask ChatGPT, give me a list of stocks with low debt and consistent earnings growth. Focus on large caps across multiple sectors. Let's see what it returns. All right, so you can see that it returns a long list of stocks here, starting with Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, in the technology sector, in the healthcare sector, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, and many more. Financial services, Visa, MasterCard, BlackRock, and then consumer staples, Procter & Gamble, Unilever, Colgate, Kimberly-Clark, Mondelez, and General Mills. But this is vague. How do we know that this list that it's provided us are actually great growing stocks? For example, I know from my own portfolio that Apple has been down year to date, and it's facing significant headwinds right now in the market with tariffs. I know that Alphabet or Google is also down significantly this year, facing a lot of threats from tools like ChatGPT and other AI tools. I know that United Health Group is also down this year as a result of fears that the government might be working on plans that could impact its ability to raise prices on consumers and also coverage mandates that could impact the company. So as you can see, if we just took all the companies on this list and just blindly invested in them, we face the risk of losing a lot of money. So there's got to be a better way. So I started thinking about other metrics that are really important when you're trying to invest in stocks. Specifically, I want to invest in companies that have a very low debt to equity ratio, a high return on invested capital, EPS growth rate of greater than 10% over the last 5 years, and a 4P ratio of, let's say, 25 or less. Also, I want to look at stocks that have a positive year-to-date performance. So here's the prompt I put forth to ChatGPT to help me narrow down this list of stocks. Help me narrow down this list of stocks using the following criteria: debt to equity ratio below 1, return on invested capital greater than 10%, 5-year EPS growth rate of 10%, forward PE less than 25, positive year-to-date stock performance as of May 11th, 2025. Create a table with the ticker, name, sector, and the criteria above. Now let's see what it gives us. So here's what it gave us. It wasn't able to actually provide us with the information, and this is something I have learned from working with the tool for a while. When you give it specific data to go pull and specifically analyze, the tool finds it difficult to get all the information needed for several stocks at a time. Also, a lot of the financial metrics that we're asking ChatGPT to go find are usually behind paywalls elsewhere, and so it cannot easily go find that information. But let me show you something that ChatGPT does incredibly well. ChatGPT is able to analyze the information if you provide it to it. So let's take a stock like Nvidia. We go to Yahoo Finance, we type in the ticker symbol Nvidia, we click statistics, we take a snapshot of those statistics, save it to your computer. You do the same thing with its financials, and you do the same thing with its financial highlights. You attach those files that you just saved using this plus button, and the screenshots get attached into the ChatGPT chat box. And then you can ask ChatGPT anything about those files. For instance, we might say, can you tell me what the growth rate is of NVIDIA's revenue for the last 3 years? So check this out. So it tells you to calculate the revenue growth rate, it's going to have to extract the total revenue from each year and compute the year-over-year growth rates. So it pulls the revenue for each year and then it calculates it year by year. Shows you that from 22 to 23 it was only 8.3%. It's grown over 100% in 23 to 24 and from 24 to 25. How great is that? No spreadsheets needed. Let's ask it another question. What is NVIDIA's current PE and the PE for the last year? So it's able to pull out its PE for each quarter for the last year and what its current PE is, which is great. So now let's make it do something a little bit more difficult. Can you analyze NVIDIA's financials and pull out all of the key pieces of information in it that would help me decide if this is a stock that I should invest in? Let's see what it gives us. So check this out. So it puts together its growth metrics, showing me how it's grown for the last 3 years. So it's had explosive growth over the last 3 years. The quarterly earnings growth, 79% compared to last year. The 5-year earnings per share growth rate, greater than 100%. From a profitability perspective, its gross margins at 67%, operating margin 61%, net margin 55.8%, incredible return on equity of over 100%, and return on assets of 57%. The takeaway here is when ChatGPT compares this to other software companies, NVIDIA is in a class of its own. From a valuation perspective, its current forward PE is at 26, with a PEG ratio of 1.66. So it's not cheap, but earnings continue to deliver the goods. It's got tons of cash on its balance sheet, $43.2 billion, $10 billion in debt, which is equivalent to a debt to equity ratio of 0.17. Then it gives me a bull case summary and a bear case summary. So it talks about the company's dominant position in AI, explosive revenue growth, low debt and high cash position, but it also gives me a bear case for it. So the valuation is lower today, but it still assumes that the company will continue to grow at a very high rate. It's still a hardware business in a cyclical industry selling semiconductors. It's exposed to China, and so things like tariffs can and have been impactful to the stock. So there you see the power of using AI tools to help calculate the different ratios and metrics of the stock, helping you get closer to making a decision on if this is something that you would want to buy or not. So AI still gets a lot of things wrong, especially when you are not using its search function, which is here. For instance, as of today, Sunday, May 11th, it's claiming that NVIDIA stock is up 31.9%. And it says its price range is between 363 and 881 over the last 52 weeks. Well, I know that NVIDIA stock is really around $100. In fact, let's look at its stock chart. So as of the close of the stock market on May 9th, which was last Friday, NVIDIA stock was at 116 and 65 cents. And year to date, it's down by 15% and not up by 31%. So you have to be careful when you're using the tool, especially when it's not using its search function, to verify that the numbers that it's providing are accurate. Now, when you give it specific context to work from, like the images of its financials, what I found is that the tool is accurate in providing you with the appropriate numbers and the appropriate calculations. If you want to see more about how I've used ChatGPT to invest in stocks, in the description below, I have a video about how to research stocks using ChatGPT. I also have a video about the top recession stocks that ChatGPT recommends. So for up-to-the-minute data and current information, it's best to have ChatGPT's search function on in order for you to get the most accurate data possible. But you can also just feed in the financial metrics and attach it to the chat box in order to get ChatGPT to do the calculations off of the information that you provided it. So what comes next for us? We're going to be using ChatGPT to make some stock picks that we will follow over time. So I'd like you to subscribe if you want to follow that journey to see how ChatGPT performs against the market and other strategies. So should you use AI to pick stocks? So here's my take. AI can help you be a smart investor. investor, but only if you stay smarter than the prompts that you give it. If you treat it like a co-pilot or investment assistant, it's an incredible resource, and it would allow you to do the amount of research that would typically take hours and turn it into taking just minutes to do. So you get to save time, you get to surface a bunch of ideas that you might not have thought about, and you could dig deeper than you otherwise would have. But if you treat it like a crystal ball, you're gonna get burned. As you saw in this video, as we refined the prompts and got better and fed the tool with the right data, it provided us with better output for us to make smarter decisions. In this next video, I show you the prompts that I use to make me a smarter investor using ChatGPT. Like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.